Welcome everybody to a new analysis of Tridomics. In this episode, we're going to focus on the Swiss stocks. So first of all, let's get started with Roche. So according to the last analysis that we issued a month ago, roughly, we were saying that because of this cycle, downward cycle, potentially T plus one was turned into a negative one, we could have had the continuation of the downtrend or the beginning of eventually another weekly downward cycle. And then we said that we should have monitored then the trend, because we could have had a bounce of the dead cat and potentially a return to a downtrend. Because from this stop, we were saying that from here, potentially, we could have had the possibility to have a T plus two, and therefore we couldn't have um, turned or going back to the tops before at least a weekly upward cycle. So what happened was actually the first option. So if we gauge the time from the weekly or the beginning of the weekly downward cycle, we had 9 days. But rather than beginning a new T downward cycle, we proceeded to the downside, and we actually had 12 days, so T hybrid weekly cycle of 12 days. And therefore, here with this week, we started a new cycle. Therefore, now we can update the chart. So first of all, here, we didn't have a T plus one. Actually, we had a question mark, but simply a T. So now I can update the chart accordingly. So here we have just a weekly cycle. And we had also, the market gave us additional information regarding the upward cycle. So first of all, here from desktop, given that um, the time elapsed until the candle of Friday, 18th of October, is 60 bars. So here we can definitely have the beginning of a T plus five. So here we can remove also the question mark. And from this stop as well, made on the 2nd of September 2024, we have a T plus two monthly upward cycle. So now, having said that, analysis correct, right? Let's remove the arrows. And here we have to understand what is going on. So first of all, if we start zooming back from this low, or from the 9th of February 2024, if we gauge the total duration here, we have 147 bars. So this is definitely the potentially the first T plus four. Now, this T plus four has been divided in the first T plus three downward cycle, which is roughly positive, because actually the low from which it ended was slightly higher compared to the low from which it started. Then the second T plus three was subsegmented in the first T plus two, and from the second T plus two, we had the finish here, 37 bars. If we drag also the duration until here, we have 49 bars, but 49 bars should be a T plus three according to our time segmentation. Therefore, I prone to consider the fact that from here, so if we drag the total duration until this weekly cycle, 37 bar, this thing is potentially a Bayer tongue. So it's a Bayer tongue of 12 days encompassed between a T plus 3, which is this one, and here we had the 91 bars. So 91 bars would be a T plus 3H and the beginning of something else. So you also see that from this low to this low, we have a T plus 3 hybrid. And here potentially we have a Bayer tongue, which is connecting the second T plus 3 plus another T plus 3. So this time framing here is a T, a B, which is a Bayer tongue. And we put it in red, of course, because this is an anomaly of the market. And if you don't know regarding the Bayer tongue, you can also click to the pop-up banner on the right hand side here, um, introduction to the T cycle analysis. So from this Bayer tongue, weekly Bayer tongue, from this law here, we have the beginning of a T plus 3. So we have already enough time to say this is the beginning of a T plus 3. And now the first T plus, or the third T plus 3, or this T plus 5, has made a first T plus 1, 16 bars, neutral cycle. And now we are seeing relevant push to the upside. So here we have also to consider the upward cycles. From this T plus 2 upward cycle, we had the closing of the first T plus 1. And you can see also a specularity in this case between the two T plus 1 upward cycle and downward cycles. And what we are now doing is that we have reached 34 bars, so which is a median time for this T plus 2. So here we are about to close also a T plus 2. So given that we have reached already median duration, what we can also foresee is that this T plus 2 can last up to 44 bars, which is end of the month, October 2024 at most. But also you have to be aware that in this case, we might have a retracement that will not proceed until end of the month, but can happen before. So if we, for example, gauge the duration here, we have 14 days, but here we have 9 days, and here we have 5 days. So here potentially we have the closing of the first T upward cycle, and now with the Friday's candle, we have reached a weekly cycle of 6 days. So with this candle of Friday, we had one possibility to start the retracement out of the other um, 5. So on Fridays, we had 20% starting the retracement out of 80% to proceed to the upside. And therefore, from Monday onwards, the probability will get more and more for a potential retracement, because here we are at 34 bars and the maximum is 44. Um, Another thing that is important to keep into consideration is that we have closed after 8 bars the first downward cycle with first day's candle, and therefore here we are beginning a new weekly cycle. Therefore, here we can also put the new weekly cycle here. There. So what we can say is that we are about to continue at E plus 2, and we have time until end of the month eventually. A target that we can have in our mind is 310.4 Swiss francs. So let's move to the next stock, which is Novartis. So on Novartis, we have pretty much a similar situation. According to the last analysis, we said that we would have closed at T plus 1. And actually, this is what happened. So we closed the first T plus 1 after 18 bars. So here we can also update the chart with T plus 1 here, upward cycle. And you can immediately see that Novartis, compared to its competitors, if we want to call it competitors, Roche, is definitely stronger, because on Novartis we haven't had this top as a T plus 5, whilst in Roche we have it. But also Novartis is coming from a situation in which the T plus 5 here upward cycle started later, and therefore here for the time being we have 230 bars, And if we drag it until Friday's candle, we have 265 bars. So for the time being, Novartis has seen a pretty much consistent uptrend compared to Roche, which was coming from a definitely sharper downtrend. This T plus 5 upward cycle is now, since a while, I have to say, is positive. So therefore, we can continue to proceed to the uptrend. But now we have to start making further consideration compared to the last analysis that we issued in September. So from an upward cycle perspective, this is the situation so far. Here I put, for a matter of completeness, also U, as is the T plus 1 upward cycle. In terms of downward cycle, from the beginning of this T plus 3, we have added the first T plus 2 after 26 bars. So here, new T plus 2 now is in development. And now we have to make some further consideration from this T plus 3. So here we had a question mark, but this T plus 3 now has reached a total duration of 69 bars, which means that we have more than a median duration to potentially close the T plus 3. But in order to close the T plus 3 through let's say a standard role of the cycle analysis, we will need to first go over or at least match 102.72 Swiss francs. So the expectation here is to do what? To proceed to the upside and get the target at 102.72. And if we basically measure how much the price can continue to gain, is 1.76%. Now, this 1.76% can be reached. Here we have exactly the same situation as Roche, can be reached at most until end of the month, which is 31st of October, which will be 43, or even the 1st of November, 44 bars. Okay, so this is the maximum time that we have in order to reach the target. But we have also to consider another factor, which you have to definitely keep into consideration. Here we have the earning release, and the earning release is going to happen on the 29th of October 2024. Is this a case? Probably not, because by that time we will have enough time to do what? We will have enough time to close definitely this T plus 2 upward cycle that belongs to this T plus 3 upward cycle that belongs to this T plus 5 upward cycle. So you have to be really mindful that with this earning release, we might have the trigger or the excuse to eventually close this T plus 5, because the T plus 5 at that time will have 273 bars. We still have, of course, time to proceed to the upside, but considering the total duration, we have more than 50% possibilities to start a Nash retracement. So you have to be careful about this thing. And also because there was some specular situation between the upward cycle and the downward cycle, the closing eventually of the upward cycle will allow to also close what? The T plus 5 downward cycle. Okay, so this is another thing that you have to be mindful. Okay, so if you have a long position, then with this analysis, with this insights, you can you know what is best for you for your trade, and also for your let's say time expectation, if you want to keep or all the stocks for a long time or even for a short time. Okay, so that's the expectation we have on the of Novartis. So reach first of all this target and then see what is going to happen, especially in the light of the earning release. This will be a triggering point. If we also gauge the duration of this T plus 2, here we have 28 bars. And with this first neutral, let's say, downward cycle, as for Roche, we have a T plus 1, which started when the 2nd of October 2024. Okay, so that's the situation we have on Novartis, and now let's move to the next one. So the next stock is Nestle. And according to the last analysis, but not just the last one, also the penultimate one, we were saying that given that this T plus 4 was turned into a negative cycle, we would have expected a downtrend for at least for a minimum or a medium or maximum duration of the T plus 4. Now here we don't have exactly whether the insights whether this is a T plus 4 or a T plus 5. It's also possible that this is a T plus 5 because we broke up the low from which this cycle started after 101 bars. So this can be also definitely a T plus 5. And if this is a T plus 5, then we can continue to the downtrend until a minimum and maximum duration. And the maximum duration will be 338 days. Now, if we gauge the total duration so far, time elapsed is 160 bars. So how this cycle is fragmented is the following. So we had the first T plus 3, okay, 59 bars. Then we had another T plus 2, and this plus 2 is 41 bars. And now here we had a question mark because here we were saying that this is a T plus 3 or a T plus 4. Now, if we consider the total duration from this T plus 3 until this candle is 58 bars. So here we have a T plus 3 that did this rhythm. First T plus 1, then we had what? And we had another 20 bars T plus 1. So first wave of a T plus 1. And then guess what? We had what? We had another T plus 1, 17 bars. So here I deem that this is a T plus 3 rather than a T plus 4. So we can update the chart as following. Here we go. T plus 3. And we can also now remove all these arrows here like this, and we remove also this arrow. Here we can put another T plus 1. And now the question mark is, given that we went over this candle, what can we generate? Which kind of cycle can we generate from this low? And therefore here I put a T neutral. It's a white one, can be also a weekly one. So what is important is to monitor the next weeks, what is going to happen. So here we had the first touch with the moving average 50 period. And if we gauge the total duration, here we have 32 bars. So here we have already enough time to close a T plus 2, even if here we had 20 bars. So here we had a T plus 1. So here we have enough time to have a T plus 2. So let's put the upward cycle here, T plus 1. And now let's see if we can continue to the upside eventually, because this T plus 1 has turned into a positive one and we have 13 bars. So that's why potentially here we have another wick in which we can proceed to the upside. Okay. And here we might have also the beginning of a wider cycle, wider than a T cycle, because here we have already the breakup of some critical price level. Okay, so the most probable way, if we cannot exclude a retracement, but the most probable way is to have eventually another week in which the price can at least fight with the moving average 50 period. And the moving average 50 period is at 86.90 roughly Swiss francs. But also keep in mind that we have enough time already to close a T plus 2 and start a retracement. Considering the shape of the candle, I'm more in favor to expect either an upside for the next week or a steady state kind of situation in which the price can float in a defined trading range. But we will have to monitor what is going to happen next week. Okay, for the time being, we are still in depth cross. We penetrate the moving average 21 period, and now we have the test with the moving average 50 period. Okay, a T plus 4 can be definitely closed here. So let's see what is going to happen next week. So that would be critical. Okay, so that's the situation so far on Nestle. Be careful to manage your long or short position accordingly, because the situation is not really clear, but we can have the beginning of something new. Okay, that's the situation. And also, cherry on the pie, we have had um, positive divergence here, because here we have low low and here we have low high. Okay, so that's also the cherry on the pie. Let's also move to the next one. So the next stock in focus is Swisslife. So according to the last analysis, we were saying that we could have proceeded to the uptrend given that this T plus 5 upward cycle was positive, but also above all, this is the T plus 3 or T plus 4 upward cycle that's turning into a positive one, as well as the T plus 3 here. So basically, we were also saying that we could have expected the beginning of a T plus 2. And if we gauge, the total duration, we had a T plus 2 hybrid cycle, 46 days. So here we have the beginning of another T plus 2, okay? And here we had already the evidence. So a T plus 2 hybrid plus another T plus 2 in development. Now, I was really doubtful whether this high was a T plus 2 or not, and I was expecting to have more information from the market. Now, if we gauge the total duration from this top here until the top of the Wednesday, 25th of September, we have 51 bars. Otherwise, we have also 66 bars. So first of all, you have to take into consideration that here we have more than enough time to close this T plus 3. Here I removed this T plus 2 because, as said, I was not really sure whether this was a T plus 2 or not. But given that we had more information from the market, here I can put a new weekly cycle definitely here, or maybe more. Let's gauge the total duration. So this one is actually a T plus 1. So I put a T plus 1. And now, given that we have already enough time to close the T plus 3, we need to be careful. We need to be careful because if we drag the duration of this T plus 5, we end up with 377 bars. If we gauge the duration until here, is 308 bars. So this thing, given that it's not a T plus 5, so this cycle might be a Bayer tongue. It might be a Bayer tongue encompassed between a T plus 6 and a T plus 6. But it can also be something that can prolong the uptrend, because it's not given by fact that at any cost we need to have a T plus 5 on the stocks. Because if there is a strong uptrend, we can also have a subsequent T plus 4, not just T plus 5. Okay. But in any case, here the time is really stretched. It's really stretched if we consider a T plus 5, but it's also a median duration for a T plus 3, okay? Because now we averaged 67 days out of 89, okay? So here we have definitely room to proceed to the uptrend, but you have to be aware that a retracement might be expected, okay? And if there will be, and I repeat, if there will be the beginning of a downtrend, what we need to monitor for managing position long, short, or if you want to do trade overnight, this is the critical candle. So this is the level of price that we have to keep into consideration for continuation of the downtrend. Of course, we will have to gauge the time at any point in time, but 688 Swiss francs is our checkpoint. Okay. So time to proceed to the uptrend, yes. But bear in mind that if we start to retrace and we go lower than this point, then the situation might change, okay? As this potentially is a bear tongue. Other flip of the coin is that this is not just a T plus 3, but a T plus 4, because we had the breakup of the 30 bars. Then in that case, if we can keep going up, then we will keep going up until its minimum duration, which is 94 days, so 25 of November 2024 at least. Okay, so the situation here is a little bit, let's say, unclear. Time to definitely go up, but also time to definitely go down. And if we will continue to break the highs, and that here will be a T plus 3, T plus 4, then will be a T plus 4. Otherwise, this is the first checkpoint that we have to keep into consideration. Okay, so careful on this stock, and let's move to the next one. So the next stock is UBS, which is the most prominent Swiss bank after the bankruptcy of Credit Suisse. So here regarding UBS, we were saying that we would have expected at the closing of a T plus 2 for the upward cycle, but I was also flagging the fact that we would have returned back to the downsides, and especially below this point, because here we had a T plus 5 which was negative. So let's start the analysis one by one. So first of all, from this low we have add a new T plus 2, because by gauging the total time here we have 27 bars, so this is a T plus 2. But this T plus 2 was really strong, and we went over this top and over this top. Now, if here we have the possibility to have a T plus 3, and we have broken up the top at 46 bars, if we're going to break up also this top, here we will have the possibility to have a T plus 5 upward cycle that will be broken to the upside positive, therefore continuation of the uptrend. And I will return on the upward cycle in a moment. Now, for the downward cycle, here we have something that doesn't match. So from this T plus 5, this low, we have at potentially the close of this T plus 5 at 21 bars. But here we have 343 bars, which is more than T plus 5, 338. Considering the fact that here we are having a strong push to the upside, the plan B is that we had the close of the T plus 5 here at 316 bars, and this is a Bayer tongue. So a T plus 5 plus a Bayer tongue and a new eventually T plus 5. So now here we have to also consider the Bayer tongue market anomaly. And here we put a B question mark. Here we have the red. And therefore, here we have to put another question mark if this is a real T plus 5 or whether this one is a new T plus 4, T plus 5. So let's say that if we're going to break up the high here, this will be potentially the new T plus 5. Because if we break this high, the probability to return into this area will be extremely low, because this is a critical checkpoint, because this will be a new T plus 5 eventually. It's also true that, no, it's not true, because here we have 309 bars, so this is definitely confirmed as a T plus 5. So really close to, let's say, bind this T plus 5 to the upward as a positive one, and here we have a new T plus 4, T plus 5. So that's the situation we have on UBS. Let's see over the next weeks whether this situation will happen. So the critical point is at 28.78 Swiss francs. Eventually, if we break this high, then room to definitely go to the upside. Okay, so that's the situation we have on UBS, and let's move to the next one. So the next one is Swisscom. So for Swisscom, we have a situation in which the new T plus 5 upward cycle is turned into a positive one. And here we have more evidence that the situation is like this. So therefore, here we were saying that after the closing of the T plus 3, we could have a retracement to begin a new T plus 3 or new cycle. Here we have the beginning of the T plus 4, and here we have the continuation of the uptrend. So basically, here we have the situation as following. So from the new T plus 4 until this bar or even this bar, we have 42 and 32 bars. So I would tend to consider this one as, well, can also consider this one as the beginning of the T plus 2. Let's put it here. And the continuation of the uptrend was definitely clear for those that applying the T-cycle analysis, because for those that are not applying the T-cycle analysis, well, the reading of the market would have been a little bit more difficult. Do we have also a plan B that is, let's say, putting ourselves in a condition where we might have a stronger retracement? Considering that here we have 231 bars, with the candle of, let's say, 16th of October, we have 367 days. So unless there isn't another Bayer tongue also on this stock, the T plus 5 here is confirmed. And therefore, we can have uptrend for how long? For at least we can have downtrend for the 2nd of January 2025. So I hope this is a really valuable information for those of you that are invested in Swisscom. Okay. So here, without excluding the Bayer tongue or market anomalies, here we have the confirmation of the T plus 5, and this T plus 5 has done the first T plus 3 at 84 bars, and now we have a new T plus 3. This T plus 3 has done 41 bars, and here you see also the T plus 2 and the other T plus 2, the same flip of the coin. So here we have really nice evidence that that happened. And as this plus 2 has already turned into positive after 11 days, and now we are at 14 days. So here potentially with this candle, we have the beginning of the T plus 1 upward cycle, but definitely here the um, the direction is to the uptrend, and the critical target will be this high at 594.5 Swiss francs. Okay, so that's the situation we have on Swisscom, and let's move to the next one. Focus is Geberit. In the last analysis, we were saying that we would have expected a retracement, also because we were foreseeing closing of a downward cycle, which is in case this was a T plus, potentially a T plus 2. Now we have had a new indication from the market. I was not really sure whether this top was a T plus 3, but we were expecting a T plus 3 anyway. The market gave us additional information, and this was a T plus 2 hybrid cycle, 46 days. So here we can put T plus 2 hybrid cycle. And here we had the beginning of a new T plus 3, because that's what we were foreseeing. Okay, so let's gauge another time. Okay, it's 45. It's definitely a T plus 2H. So here we have more evidence that this is a T plus 3 upward cycle. And here we have now either the possibility that the T plus 2, sorry, I have to take the last one before the beginning of this, 24 bars. So here we have potentially the T plus 2 here, but also if we gauge the total duration until here, we have a 52 bars. So this T plus 2 has begun here, and potentially here we have closed the second T plus 2. So considering that this candle has already given us some information, here we have potentially the beginning of something new, which might be more than a weekly cycle. We have to see whether this will be a T plus 2 or not. In the meantime, we can update the chart. Analysis correct. So let's remove also the arrows. And from this top to here, we add a T plus 1. So we can update the chart with a T plus 1 upward cycle. This and this one. So now we have the situation in which this T plus 3 is has pushed the price further down until the moving average 200 period. So we have one force, one down force here, and one up force here. Here we have a T plus 3, but here we don't know yet whether this will be a T plus 2 or something else. But the critical point to monitor will be 515.8 Swiss francs. So if we will start retracing and going lower to this low, then we will have to make a further consideration whether this will be a T plus 1 or a T plus 2 or something else. Okay. Regarding the T plus 4 duration, we have reached 123 bars. So we have already, well, we have yet enough time to eventually attach a T plus 2 or even eventually a T plus 3. But here we have to monitor what is going to happen next week. So the arrow here will be to closely watch, sorry, this low, because eventually if the price will go lower this low, we will have additional information. Okay. Otherwise, for the uptrend, we will have to wait whether this candle will be the beginning of an upward cycle that could trigger the price back to the upside again. Regarding the duration, here we have 17 bars. Here we have potentially the close of the first weekly cycle, and subsequently from here to here, the closing of the second weekly cycle. So from this candle, it might begin a T plus 1. So be really careful for the next week. Also, from this candle, we might have the weekly upward cycle. In this case, we will see in the next weeks the continuation of the uptrend. So next week will be important to monitor whether from this top we can have a T plus 1 upward cycle. And in that case, we will have another retracement or a couple of days at least lower to the high at 538 Swiss francs. Or otherwise, if this will not be a T plus 1, then we will continue to the uptrend. In any case, let's put eventually a new sign here, where this is a T less T plus 1 with the question mark, okay? So neutral situation here on Geberit, we don't have a really clear indication. So one will be this low as said, and one for the next week more on the short term will be the high at 538 Swiss francs. So that was the last analysis of this episode. I hope you enjoyed the video. So if you want to know more or get notified as soon as possible regarding our analysis, so you can subscribe to our channel, and if you like, put some comments or some like for the support of our daily jobs. Thanks for watching, and see you to the next episode.